We're going downstairs to the basement. This is my basement studio. And here is the latest new arrival. Can you read that word? It says Skau. It's a Norwegian word. It's quite large. It doesn't fit on my bench at the moment. Yeah, that's a bit better. It's a Norwegian made jazz guitar. I don't know the year, but I know that it was built in Fredrikstad or Halden, which are close to each other, or possibly a place called Fredrikstad. But I need to do a bit more finding out to tell you what the history is, what the year is. But it seems to be complete and original. But the binding's all there. It's an original bridge. It seems to be in pretty good shape. And it's quite loud. Okay, now let's take a closer look at this Skau guitar. It's so big, it's hard to get it all into the shot. Okay, so here's the tuning head. Looks like a plastic string guide, a 0th fret, dot markers, black side markers, U-shaped, no, actually no, more like a C-shaped neck. The tuners of a kind I don't recognise, open back tuners. Lacquer on the neck. There's a lot more lacquer on the back. This is probably something more like the front used to look. That will be a veneer of something on the top of the laminate. Could be mahogany, I'm not sure. We can see inside a little bit. I can't see any labels of any kind. No. And it's a trapeze tailpiece. There's been at one point there's been an earth wire soldered on here, so at one time it must have had a pickup, some sort of floating pickup. There are also marks here where something's been attached. There, that's probably for a strap button, I'm guessing. That's a screw sticking out. There's a screw hole here which would undoubtedly have been for a little bracket for a scratch plate. And there's a small screw here, which is an unusual place. So actually the thing is shiny all over. So it's not that the dark lacquer has been worn off. I'm not sure how it's come off in patches like this. Perhaps it was just badly sprayed, and I know this has been in a shop window in the sun for potentially years. So yeah, I think that's the reason for the fading of the original sunburst, which I say would have looked more like this. So the banana shaped neck, I don't think we can see that, or can we? On the camera, can we? Yeah, there's too much relief, but actually it's not quite as horrendous as all that. I don't know if something has changed between bringing it back from the shop, Platterschappe, the local record shop, who are becoming great friends. They sold it to me for next to nothing, which was very kind of them. I think perhaps they were sick of the sight of it hanging up in the shop for years and years. Looks like it's probably never had a neck reset. I'm quite surprised all the binding's still on, but it is. The F-holes are also bound, so I can't see what the grain is, so I can't actually say what's laminate and what's not, but I'm just assuming the top is laminate. Maybe it's not. There's no centre seam, so the back will be. There's no centre seam on the front either. Can you get birch in such large pieces? I don't know. There's quite a lot of dings on the surface, almost like somebody stabbed it with a ballpoint pen. Strange. There's probably bracing inside, but I can't find it. If there is, I don't think there's a centre block. Doesn't sound like it. So what I'm going to do is, while it's strung up to pitch, measure the relief, then take the strings off and see how it's changed. So first I'll measure the actual action. I'll just measure the action. The action at the 12th fret is 3 millimeters. And so I'm going to measure the relief with this feeler gauge and a straight edge, which is a steel engineer's ruler. I don't have a fancy notched guitar straight edge. I'm doing this while the guitar's strung up. Okay, so roughly how much is there? Oh, there's quite a bit. Let's try, this is a millimeter feeler gauge. 1/2 millimeter. Try the 1/2 millimeter feeler. Yes, that passes under easily. Okay, so there seems to be the most clearance around the 7th and 8th fret. Let's see, how much more than 1/2 millimeter is there? Here we go, 0.85. Let's try that. More than that. Okay. So between the top of the 7th fret and the ruler, it is actually 1 millimeter. Okay. I need to write that down. So now I'm going to take the strings off. So as soon as I started to turn the tuning keys, I realised there needs to be some oil because they're stiff. So I don't want to use this engineering oil can straight onto the guitar, so I'm going to put some oil into a much smaller nozzled bottle so I can control it better. I'm going to turn it over this way actually. And move the camera. So I'm going to oil the cogwheels and also the point where the shaft of the tuners pass through the brackets, both. So there's the point where they pass through the brackets, and there's some oil onto the wheel, the worm and wheel mechanism. Just a tiny bit, because I really don't want the oil soaking into the wood of the guitar. I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to wipe with a rag before any oil runs anywhere it shouldn't run. And then I'll start turning the pegs straight away to spread the oil around over the bearing surfaces. So here we go. Wipe away the excess, if there is any. Hardly. Okay, come back to you when I've taken the strings off now. So halfway through taking the strings off, I noticed a couple of interesting things. The bridge, which is a fully floating bridge, and it's a good fit to the top, makes good contact, has had a couple of pieces broken off, just there and there. And the slots are too deep in the top of this bridge, so I'm going to have to shave away probably 1/2 millimetre off the top to bring it back into good shape. There's room for a bit of intonation as well, a bit of intonation adjustment by filing the back and the front. The wheels, the adjuster wheels, are fully down, so there's plenty of scope for taking up the slack. You know, if I lower it by shaving away the top here to get more reasonable string slots, that of course lowers the overall action, but I can wind these adjusting wheels to raise it, and they work. So no real problem there. So I've taken off the fully floating bridge, and you can see where bits have broken off. And I've just marked it with a B on the bass side for when I come to put it back on. There's a very clear mark though on the face of the guitar where it's been sitting. It might not be exactly right, I won't know until I string it up with new strings and do the intonation. Talking of strings, the old ones are old and a bit blackened and feel rough and dirty, but they have been interesting strings. They're not flat wound, they're not round wound. There's something in between. I also need to do some research as to what kind of strings, what kind of alloy to use on a guitar like this, because if I use the wrong kind there might be too much tension for the health of the guitar. Strangely, I've noticed, can I get this into the camera, some of the frets from the 9th fret, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, right up to the 15th have been moved. Some of them have been pushed in the direction of the bass side, just slightly, so they're sharp here and recessed on this side. I think maybe some, and of course there are 2 frets missing, the 2 highest frets missing. It seems as though somebody has been messing about, trying to take them out maybe, but not knowing what they were doing. I may just be able to push those frets back into the right kind of alignment. So I've just started with a little bit of water to start cleaning up the fretboard, and that immediately reveals that it's not a dark wood fretboard. It's been stained dark to look like, I don't know, rosewood or ebony or something. So I'll clean up the whole thing and then maybe apply a little bit of oil. I've already pushed these frets back into alignment, but I'm not convinced that they're that well seated at the ends. Maybe once I've cleaned it up I'm going to run some super glue in there. I don't know about that. I never have before. We shall see. But I'm going to carry on cleaning with a bit of water and then probably a bit of naphtha, a lighter fluid. Now the strings are off, I can remeasure the degree of bowing in the neck again to see if it's changed. Okay, it's still more than half a millimetre. We'll try 0.75. Measuring between the frets and the ruler. It's close to 0.75 at the largest. Yeah. It's about 0.75 at the 9th fret. Sorry, the 8th fret. It's 0.75 won't quite go under at the 9th. So it's the 8th fret, 7th fret, it's tight at the 6th. So it's 7th and 8th fret is where the most clearance is, which is fortunate because that's the middle and that's where I can probably effect some change. If it was down here that would be tough. If it was right up here that would be tough. So that's good. Incidentally, I'm keeping the strings because I want to measure them, find out what gauge was already on there. So I'm going to stop there. I've started to clean up the fretboard. You can see I've done the higher region already. It's just filth coming off. Strings are off. The tuning pegs are oiled and working much nicer, smoother, and that's all for now. I'm going to go away now and find out a bit more of, well, something really at all of the history of Skau guitars in southern Norway. So that's the end of part 1 of this restoration of a Skau jazz guitar. Thanks for watching.